top. 5, not quite the top, a little bit further down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. Bar Padaya Omar. Bar Padaya said, I'm Ivriya, a Jewish maidservant. Yotes Misa Rabba, she exits slavery when her master dies. My time, what's the reason for this? It says, just like you do to your Eved Ivri. Now, this is your Eved Ivri, not the 6-year term guy, but the guy who's working till Yovel, already had the ear pierced, right, which we're going to learn more about today. So he works until his master dies, as we will learn later on what the reason for that is. So, and it says by the Eved Ivri, when they do him, you do the Amo Ivriya. If that's the case, well, actually, it says it here as well. It says by Eved Ivri, we'll learn in greater detail later on, but it's Eved Olam means as long as your world exists. And once the master dies, that's it. That's the end of his world. That's the end of the Avdus for his slaves. And then it's Hekish Amo Ivriya the Nirta. There's a parallel between Amo Ivriya and an individual who received a pierced ear. Just like the Nirta goes out, the pierced ear guy goes out when his master dies. Amo Ivriya, so to the Amo Ivriya, Yotzes B'misas Rabba goes out when her master dies. Vasi the Bar Padoya. Now this, in fact, is a little bit of a machlokas. Vasi the Bar Padoya according to Tanoya. Bar Padoya goes like the following Tana in a little bit of a machlokas. The Tani will learn Eved Ivri Oved Esabein Ve'eno Oved Esabas. And Eved Ivri serves the son of his previous master. There's only the Eved Ivri of 6 years, right? The Eved Ivri who has his ear pierced, who works till Yovel. If his master dies, it goes free. But the Eved Ivri of 6-year term, he serves the son if the father dies. Ve'eno Oved Esabas, but not a daughter. Only a son, not a daughter. Amo Ivriya, now here the Korban throws the word Eina. She does not serve Ovedes Esabas, Ve'eno Vesaben. She serves neither the son nor the daughter, nor of her master. Istani Tani. There's another Bryce which argues with this, which says Bein Ivri, also the 6-year Eved Ivri, Ein Ovdi Lo Saben Lo Sabas. They do not serve neither the son nor the daughter. Ma Mekayem Odein Tanahu. If that's the case, so why do we need the Gzer Shavat, the Hekesh, the parallel to Nirtza, to Eved Ivri who had his ear pierced? That we know that no slave serves beyond, according to this price, no slave serves beyond the death of their master. So what's the saying? Why are we learning a parallel to the Eved Ivri who goes out after Yovel, who goes out after his ear was pierced in Yovel? What is that parallel teaching us? It seems to be superfluous at this point. So it says the Gemara, Pasar law, he learns that it has to do with Henek. Henek is a severance pay, which goes to the Eved Ivri that he's supposed to get because he worked loyally all the years that he was with the company, right, with the firm. So therefore, since that's the case, the Tani learned Elu Shamanikim learned these are the people who get this noka, this severance. Hayoytze B'shonim Uvi a person who goes out after 6 years, and a person who goes out after Yovel. V'Amo Ivriya Shikon Atzma B'Simonim, and Amo Ivriya who acquires herself via the Simonim because of adulthood. However, if the Eved Ivri purchases freedom by deducting from his purchase price and eventually purchasing his freedom, and if he goes out by the death of his master, they do not get the severance pay. It has to be that it went through the normal procedure, not a buyout. Okay? Says the one Ksiv. It says, his master should take him to the door, right? To the judges. He takes him to the door. So, what is this talking about? This is a fellow who was sold by the courts. That's the one of I punctuated poorly. It should be okay. The one Elohim. It's actually judges, not God. right? So we say Elohim, not Elohim. So Zeshu Nikar, basically one is sold by the judges. On him it says you bring him to the judges. Zeshu Mochrat, so the one who sold himself into slavery, but you show El Adeles, that's referred to by bringing him to the door. So regardless, when they decide after their term is up to remain slaves, then you bring them to have their ear pierced. Okay? Rabbi Ami asked the following: Pshita zeshunin kabre beistin. I understand an individual who sold by beistin. Beistin, Koshin Shor, beistin writes a document saying we beistin are selling so and so to slavery. Zeshu moichrazat, an individual who sells himself. Me kosei v'shtoro, who writes his document. Does he write his own document, or it's like Kiddushin in that the master writes the document? It's a good question. Gemara doesn't answer; it goes on to something else. Says Gemara Ksiv, it says, "Lo yikshe beinechacha." It shall be difficult in your eyes. Mishalechacha also chavshim eimach, when you send your Eved free from yourself. Ki mishnes char sochir, because the double wages of a worker he served avat chashay shonim. He served you for the 6 years. Sochir, employee, oived bayoim, works in the day, not at night. Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave, oived ben bayom uven balayla, works both day and night. So it says, how could this be? It says you're not allowed to overwork your Eved Ivri. And you say that Eved Ivri works at night and day. It's not fair. So Gemara gives the famous drasha of Bavli. Also brings it. Rabbi Yamshem, Rabbi Yechanan said, Rabbo Mesio Isha Knanis. His master gives him a Canaanite mistress. Well, it's actually a woman, a wife, because we mentioned earlier in Masechta, it's a concept of quasi-wifery, quasi-ishus between an Eved Ivri and a Shivcha Canaanite. V'nimtza Eved ben b'yom ben b'layla. So he's working both day and night. In the day he's working with the fields, and at night he's working with the wife. He's being fruitful in all places. So therefore he's constantly working. Rabbi Bar Memo, Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Bar Memo asked a fascinating question for Rabbi Ami. Now I didn't look this up in the Bavli, but I have a feeling this is not in the Bavli because I don't recall it. Rabbi Bar Memo, Rabbi Ami. Hagatz b'choshi akoyin akoyin. What if the Eved Ivri is a Kohen? Can you give him a Shivcha Kananis or not? Okay, so Eved Kohen is more restricted in who he can marry and who he can have relations with. So can the Eved who's a Kohen also be compelled to live with a Shivcha Kananis? Okay, so that's his question. So Amar Lacey said, I will start with your questions. V'Yisrael lo time miklal etzer. Yisrael also, when he was free, he was not allowed to live with the Shivcha Kananis. Now that he was made Eved Ivri, so he's granted permission by the Torah. So now Kohen is no worse. When he was free, was not permitted. Now that he's the Eved Ivri, he's required to live with the Shivcha Kananis. No. Special dispensation. Yeah, she is converted, but only quasi-converted. She's not a full Jewish woman, right? Therefore, the children are slaves. That's the whole point. No, the Avarim Kananim. They follow the mother. Okay. So Kachamun Rabbi Bar Memel Khan, when Rabbi Bar Memel heard what we just said, Chazar Bey, he reneged on his original suffix and he agreed. You're right. A Kohen must be able to marry a Shivcha Kananis as well. Darash Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Bun. Rabbi Yehuda said Rabbi Bun darshaned Hamilas Hazen Nirtza. When you pierce the ear of the Eved Ivri, you pierce the lobe. Why is that? Shelo yeh Kohen v'yiposel. In order that if he's a Kohen, he shouldn't become posel avodah. Because I guess a hole in the lobe is not a psul for the avodah. Meir says, Minas chusay, so you get pierced in the cartilage up here. And this again, I don't remember this in the Bavli at all, but you get pierced in the cartilage up here. Okay, the cartilage of the ear up here. So, what? More painful. Mikani Remeir Omer, it says Remeir said, and a Kohen Nirtza. The Kohen doesn't get Nirtza. Shemi Yaseh Ba'amum, because he might become Ba'amum as a result. The Basel Min Avodah. So it says more, wait a minute, let's pierce the cartilage. Pachos Min HaKarshina. Karshina is some bean size, I'm not sure exactly how much, but if you make a small hole in that, it's not a problem. So it says more, nevertheless, Shema Yavli De Karshina. You might come to the size of Karshina. So it says the Gemara, so what? Yavli De Karshina, so let's take a risk, big deal. If it comes to De Karshina, Nishkeferlach. There's more, no. The Torah says at the end of your Knat, your Avdus, V'shav Lachuzaso. You go back to your portion. Be'eno means you have to go back the way you came in. So therefore, we don't want to take any chances of making puzzle. So we don't even pierce it a little bit, lest we pierce it too much. There's an amazing Amudei Yerushalmi here at the bottom. So he brings, actually not, he's not amazing. Shiur Carbon he brings down is amazing. Shiur Carbon asks that how can there be a havamina that you can make a movement of Kohen? It's matil mum bekochim. You don't have to be matil put a movement to karbonos. So Kohen is like a carbon. It's an amazing concept, because if you were going to carbonate, actually a Kohen would never be able to undergo mutilating procedures, right? Because of matil mum bekochim. But Amud Yerushalmi dismissed that. He says it's obviously only a din in carbon, not a din in individual kohanim. But the shiur carbon is an amazing havamina, right? I guess there is a logic to it. You know, the movement of kohanim are similar to the movement of karbanos, so one could construe it that way. That what? Yeah.
It's going to disappear.
Right. Isn't that, yeah, that's, well, where do you see one that's going to disappear?
The hole closes up. The hole closes up. The cartilage doesn't.
Oh, is that the shot that the lobe closes up? Oh, yeah?
So I think the cartilage will also close, but the cartilage is much more permanent. The lobe is only skin. So the skin won't.
I mean, if women stop wearing earrings, it closes up the hole? It does? Oh, yeah? I didn't know that. I thought it's only like a short amount of time. All right. Okay. So it says the Gemara. Yeah, temporary movement's definitely not a move. That's obviously true. So I didn't understand why I thought lobe is not. So I didn't know why lobe was not a move. I just figured, there's a cause of it has to be in cartilage, but what you could say it's butchered. Since the lobe will heal, that's why it's not a move. It's like a broken leg. Once the leg heals, it's not a move anymore. Okay. So it says the Gemara. Now this is getting back to our Kohen case. The Gemara goes back to it momentarily. It says, a Kohen is not nirtza on the Kohen is not a Kohen is not nirtza unless he had a wife and kids via shivcha knanis. So the whole discussion, you just had a whole question of whether Kohen is nirtza or not, right? But the basis for such a discussion must be that he's got a shivcha knanis wife and kids, because it says im yomar omor yomar evet after yesishti vesiyula die. So therefore, he must have a shivcha knanis wife and kids. So obviously, a Kohen has to be able to marry shivcha knanis and have kids. Otherwise, you can't even have the discussion of where we pierce his ear, do we pierce his ear. Obviously, we see from here that the assumption that tonight was that he does get a shivcha knanis. Okay, what's on the topic of piercing ears? B'martzeya, it says with a martzeya, what that is exactly we'll see in a few moments. Einli martzeya, you use a martzeya. Minan shafil b'sol. How do I know that even with some sharp, pointy stick, I feel b'kotes, even a thorn, I feel b'schuchis, even with glass, the verb indicates that the verb indicates that no matter how you can do it, because of the extra vav. It says Vilna. Ad kedun Rabbi Kiva. That's what makes sense. What Rabbi Kiva dashes extra vavs, which the Karagilian Ephraim means that whole bunch of places where Rabbi Kiva dashes extra vavs. So that's Rabbi Kiva's thing. But Rabbi Shmuel, what about Rabbi Shmuel who says that who doesn't hold we dash extra vavs, right? So it's similar to Rabbi Shmuel's sheet or Akim Rabbi Shmuel's sheet with machlokas all over Yerushalmi, Dibra Torah Kulash B'nei Adam, or not. I think Rabbi Kiva is the one who holds that Lo Dibra Torah Kulash B'nei Adam. Rabbi Shmuel holds Dibra Torah Kulash B'nei Adam. So Rabbi Shmuel doesn't darshan vavs. I think that's that's correct. So therefore, just like Rabbi Shmuel doesn't darshan, just like Rabbi Shmuel doesn't darshan the Shrinus Kfulim, double languages, because he says Dibra Torah Kulash B'nei Adam, he doesn't darshan vavs. So he says a very interesting thing, which is in the Bavli as well. Tani Rabbi Shmuel said, B'shlosha Mekoimos, in 3 places, the halacha Mishmisinai circumvents the pasuk, contradicts and circumvents it. In 1 place, the halacha Mishmisinai circumvents the medrash. Medrash means one of the Gimel Mido Shator Nidreshes by one of Shmuel's 13 principles. And now we're going to describe them. For one of them is Torah, more of a Torah says that a get must be written in a book, means parchment, ink and quill. Anything severed from the ground does have to be on parchment. The Torah says, when you cover the blood of a fowl or a deer which you slaughter, you have to do with dirt. But it says anything which can sprout, which can cause things to grow. The Torah says with a martzeah, and Allah says afilu b'sol, even with a pointed stick, afilu b'kotes, even with a thorn, afilu b'schus, even with glass. That's the 3 halachas which undermine psukim. In one place, halacha undermines the medrash. What's the case? Shmuel taught us. It'll come to pass on the 7th day. By the way, it's interesting, you never realized before. Rabbi Shmuel is the author of the Gimel Midos, right? Rabbi Shmuel Omer. So according to Rabbi Kiva, at least, there's a 14th Midah, which is L'Shonus Kfulim, right? Where you have the Roshi Drosh, most you must, things like that. So Rabbi Kiva darshans them, right? Rabbi Shmuel doesn't. So that was cut out of Rabbi Shmuel's brisa because according to Rabbi Shmuel, it's not a valid drasha. The same thing with the extra vav over here. According to Rabbi Kiva, that would be a 15th means of drush. But Rabbi Shmuel wrote the brisa, not Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva's midos did not get any billing on those. Okay. So in any event, here Rabbi Shmuel, one of Rabbi Shmuel's midos is cloud prat to cloud that he does hold. Another thing, of course, Rabbi Akiva holds ribuy miut as opposed to cloud prat. Rabbi Shmuel darkens everything cloud prat, generalization specification. Rabbi Akiva darkens ribuy miut, inclusion and exclusion. Anyway, it says the Rabbi Shmuel, it says by a person who has leprosy, a mitzvah. On the 7th day, he should shave off all his hair. Cloud, that's a generalization. His head, his beard, and his eyelashes, eyebrows, eyebrows, prat, specification. That it says all his hair he should shave, because of a kilo, it's another generalization. Cloud, prat, generalization, specification, generalization. And Todon Elkena prat. You can only judge this in things which are similar to the specification. In order to indicate to you, my prat before it's just like the prat, the specification is explicit. Shumakum kinu seyar. It's a place where hair is collected. Uvenire, which is seen. In other words, you can see the hair of the head, you can see the beard, you can see the eyebrows. So I would say ainly elam makum kinu seyar venira. And the hair which has to be done is the hair which is bunched and is apparent. So it would mean you wouldn't have to do hair under your armpits because it's not apparent, right? Because you keep your arms down. And you wouldn't have to do like hair on your arms or on your legs because that's not kinu seir, it's not a clump of hair, right? So you wouldn't have to do any of that. So that would be the klal pratu klal, right? V'aloch amra, V'aloch says, Yigachenu kidlas, when we shave you, we have to shave you like a pumpkin, meaning that you have to be bald all over. So that's halacha coming and uprooting the klal pratu klal, which we could have otherwise darshan. Okay? Says the Gemara, b'martzeh, use the martzeh. Ma martzeh shamata teches, just like a martzeh is made out of metal. I've called it shamata here. It says everything in metal. Of course, it's already as we said before that even a thorn. Rabbi Omer is a magdechel. Rabbi says, what's a martzeh? It's a large drill. Rabbi Omer is a psila. It's a plane. Everybody know what a plane is? Smooth that wood. Not sure he pierced in here with it, but Bigisho Adelis, you bring it to the door. Yachafin we're talking about even a door which is prone. Tamlom or Ela Mezuzah. Bring it to the Mezuzah, the door post. Mezuzah minutes, just like the Mezuzah is standing up. Avadelis Yom made so to the door has to be standing up. Gnailo, why do we bring it to the door? Gnailo, to make to publicize. We do it in public, by the door of the court, to make embarrassment to him. Embarrassment for his family, right? We'll see why in a moment. Why to the door? Because by the door, by putting blood on the doors in Mitzrayim, he went out from slavery to freedom, and this guy's going back into slavery, right? Charlotte, that's the Gnai, that's the public shame. Charlotte, Miss Rabbi Yochanan Zakai. Students ask Rabbi Yochanan Zakai, what did this Eved see? Not literally, not of course the Eved himself, but what did the terrorists see to impose upon the slave? The Ratzah know that he should be pierced in his ear, more than any other limb. Armalan to respond to them, Ozen Shishomim Me'ar Sinai, the ear which heard in Ar Sinai, Lo Yel Choluhim Achirim Aponai, you should not have any other gods upon before me. Upirka Me'ela Omach Shamayim, and remove from upon itself the yoke of the kingship of heaven. The Kibla had accepted upon himself all Basar V'lam, the yoke of human servitude. That ear should be pierced. Okay? Similarly, Oden Shishama Livnei Har Sinai, the ear which heard in Har Sinai, Ki Libnei Savadim, that Am Yisrael my slaves. When this guy went and acquired a master for himself, let the ear come and be pierced. No, because he didn't maintain that which his ear heard. No. It says ear, here, and it says no also by Mitzorah. Just like the ear mentioned by Mitzorah, where he has blood applied to his ear and oil applied to his ear. It says there the right one explicitly. So too you pierce the right ear of the Eved. If the slave says that he doesn't want to go free, he has to say it twice. One at the end of 6 years while he's still a slave. Wanted to be in the seventh year as he would theoretically go free. And the Gemara says, while he's still a slave. Wanted to begin the 7th year, he has to say, I'm not going to go out free. And what else does he have to say? I love my master, es ishti, my wife, es banai, and my children. Melamed, it says there, actually the Gemara doesn't bring it down, vayivchov es beisecha, he loves you and your household. Melamed she'eno nirtza, a person cannot be pierced in the ear and become an evet till yovel, ad she'elo isha ubonim, unless he has a wife and kids from Shivcha Canaan, his wife and kids. Ulurabu isha ubonim, and his master also has to have a wife and kids, because you have to say he loves you and he loves your house. So it's not that he has to love your wife in the literal sense, but in the figurative sense, he has to be happy when you're family. So there's no family, there's no concept of ritziyah. Okay? Besides that, actually, his rabbi has to love his master. The rabbi will love him, and his master has to love him. Also has Biachi's Baruch HaNechasim that he's bringing bounty to the property. Shemai says Kitov Lo Imach. It's good for him with you, so it must be going good. Because this he requires himself every year. He requires himself by Yovel. The Siva says Yotzab Yovel. He goes on Yovel. Hu ben Avimo, he and his children, not his children by Shimcha Kananis, however, his children by his regular children go out during Yovel. Lisa Sa'adan, and also when the master dies, the Siva says Vayolcha Eved Olam, he will be a slave forever. Kol Yemei Olam Asher, as long as the master is alive, he's a slave. The moment the master dies, he's no longer a slave anymore. Okay? Halacha Gimel. Eved Knani Nikne Bekesef. Eved Knani is acquired via money, Mishtar, documents, Chazaka, and seizure. The Kohen Atzmo, and he acquires himself Bekesef, by money, Aydecher, by other people paying money for him. Mishtar de Atzmo, and by a document, even receiving the document to be able to release himself. Say, if somehow he secures funds which are not his master's funds, so then he can also redeem himself with his own funds. And by a document he can redeem himself through other people. However, this funds which he's using to release himself, it's got to be funds. It's got to be funds which came from other people. Because if the Yevon made the funds on his own, by going out and working extra something like that, so those funds all belong to his master. So it has to be funds which he received from somebody else with the intent that his master should have no jurisdiction over them. Okay? See if it says Gemara, you should bequeath them to your sons after you to inherit as in a portion. There's a parallel joining between avodim, between slaves, and a portion in the land. So we say, just like a portion of land is acquired via money and documents of chazaka and taking hold of Eved Kanani, so to a non-Jewish slave, nikne is acquired b'kesef u'b'shtar v'chazaka, with money, with documents, and with taking hold of. How we know that a portion is acquired by money, by documents, and by taking hold? Because it says, so those b'kesef yiknu, they should acquire fields with money. Uksiv, and it says, uksov b'sefer, it's all part of the pasuk, and write it in a document v'chasom, and sign v'eredim, and bring witnesses. The chasom elwei dishtar. So the chasom have them sign, those are the witnesses on a document. V'eredim, and have witnesses who testify to the process. Elwei de chazaka. These are witnesses which testify to the seizure and taking hold of. Ask Gemara, oeino elo elwei dishtar. Perhaps these are the same witnesses, the ones who signed the document. How do you know that Eidei Chazaka, who witnessed taking hold of suffice? Says more ksiv because of the Sefer Chasom. Ray says write the document and sign it. So everyone says Va'edim, those must be Edom and something else, must be Edom and Chazaka. Rabbi Yazar Shem Raimanan, Rabbi Tanchum, Rabbi Abo B'Shem, Rabbi Yochanan all said, Ein karka niknem pelchus m'shavar pruta. Land cannot be bought for less than a shavar pruta. Why? My timer. Sados b'kesef yiknu. It says field is acquired by money, silver, and silver is not less than a shavar pruta. Upali gaida om Rabbi Chanina. Decided Rabbi Chanina, and it said kol shkon shekos b'Torah. Anytime it says shekel in Torah, sloim. It's the measure of sloim. On the Nevi'im, and when it says the shkolim in the Nevi'im, it's a litra. U'ksuvim kantarin, which are Rabbi Ibn Pazi. Ibn Pazi said this is true about all shkolim and the money in Torah, chutz b'shikli Ephron, except for the shkolim which Ephron gave. Which Ephron got from Avinu, which were over la socher, means they were the best type. They were kantarin. They were the highest denomination, both possibly of shekel. My time of kesem olei nanoli, he came in full money. So the question is, that it's on Rabbi Yochanan. The Harei Inksi Boil Kesef. It says here only Kesef by, for example, by Yaakov Avinu. Right? It says Kesef. Vatamar Shkolim, so I know it's about Shkolim. Maybe silver means something of Prutos. Just like Rabbi Yochanan said before, Karka is a Shabbat Pruta. You require Karka is Shabbat Pruta because that fills the parameter of Kesef. So it says Kesef Halo Velo Socher by Abraham, and ever for that matter, any place it says Kesef in the Torah. Maybe that Kesef is just Prutos. I don't know what you're calling. I might just give an answer to this, but the truth is one can. I skipped an important line. I knew something was missing. I skipped the line, one line. Hey, Sivun, they asked the Kasha. Hareya Ones. What about rapist? Hare Engsi Boil Kesef Atar Mashkolim. This is the Kasha Rabbi Yochanan, not for Avraham Avinu. Kasha Rabbi Yochanan is, we say the Chamishim Kesef by a rapist is Shkolim. I know it's not Prutos. If Kesef in Torah can mean Prutos, how do you know the Chamishim Kesef, which it says by a rapist, is Shkolim and not Prutos? Maybe it's Prutos. And more it doesn't answer. But the truth is, the answer I think is very simple. The answer is that because it's the Gzeir Shava between Ones and Mefata. And by Mefata, I think it says Chamishim Shekel Kesef. So that's why by Ones also it's the same thing. It's like seduction. 50 shekel. I might be making this up, by the way. But I think it's true. Okay, I didn't look it up. I'm lazy. But I think it says 50 shkolim by the Fatah, and we're going to say Shavat Onas, that's how Rabbi Yochanan could respond. Could be I'm wrong. Says the Gemara, the previous brisa, which said that lands can be bought by Kesef Shtar and Chazok, it looked Rabbi Lezer, it's not like Rabbi Lezer. Because Rabbi Lezer said this in an additional manner. Lezer Hilach Kana, walking acquires a field. If you just walk in the field or in the yard, that's a form of a kinyan. To time we learned to Brisa, if you walk in the field lengthwise and widthwise, you acquire wherever you walk. Say walking is not a kinyan. You have to enhance the yard or the field in order to acquire via chazak. You don't make a kinyan until such time as you take tangible concrete hold to the land as opposed to just walking in it. Yes, but that's not a kinyan. No, that's reinstituting the prior kinyan. That we're about to say, Hakom Modim, if you sell your friend a path, this is interesting, it's not the Bavli. If you sell a friend a path, then once you walk in it, that's a kinyan. That's not a kinyan by a shvil, not by a yard. By a yard or a field, you have to make a kinyan chazak. You have to enhance it. But a shvil, its whole purpose is to walk. Once you walk, you acquired it. And he says, interesting part of my time. What part teaches us? Rise up and walk in the land. So the way the Yerushalmi is learning it, the standard way, the way the Bavli learned it in several places, that the Avos were kind of by walking, and we arouse that kinyan whatever we do later in history. The way the Yerushalmi seems to learn the pasuk, it means the Avos were out. They didn't acquire the whole land. The land is only acquired by Chazakim, but they acquired the highways and byways of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because the highways, shvilim, are acquired via walking. Even though the yards and fields only acquired via enhancement, the highways and byways are acquired via walking. Okay? I think that's what the Yerushalmi is saying. I might be reading a little bit too much into it, but I think it's what it's saying. Bypass roads, yeah, that's right. Hakol, so I don't know why they don't solve the Temple Mount problem by just building a bypass road. Okay, it says Gemara, Hakomodim, I would just say, sorry. There's a Mishnah which says, Abadi Kikarkos. And it's a Mishnah, it's a price, I think. Maybe a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah which says, Abadi Kikarkos, which is generally accepted, right? But he says there's another Mishnah which says, or Bryce, I think it's actually Bryce's, that they're like movable objects. He's Masti, so there's another Bryce says, they're not like either. Okay, and we're going to learn all three of them. What tells us that Avadim are like land, like real estate? The Tziyanta we learned over there in Baba Basra. Cheskas Abatim, the Chazak over houses, over boros, over wells, over Sichin, Moros, these are other types of structures in the ground. Merchatzos and bathhouses, Vishabachos and dovecats, Beis Abayim, oil presses, Beis Shalchin, orchards, Vavodim, and over slaves. And there it goes on to say that the Chazaka is a Chazaka of 3 years, right? Although the Korban says, if any Moshe learns that Avodim also acquired via Chazaka of 3 years. Or rather, you don't need any proof afterwards that you acquired the Evan. But the Korban doesn't take it that far. Korban says, Chazaka of 3 years doesn't work by Avodim. It's no different than animals. By animals, there's no Allah of Shecheskas Gimel Shani, because maybe they walked over to you on your own accord, right? But it rather means that just like all these things have not a Chazaka of 3 years, after which you can lose your document, so like all these things have Kinin Chazaka, so too Avodim have Kinin Chazaka. Okay? So be that as it may, the juxtaposition of land, all various forms of land and real estate, to Avodim connotes that they have the same parameters. There's another Bryce which says, Avodim Einon K'Metaltlin, that Avodim are not like Metaltlin. They're not like Metaltlin. How are they not? Einon, I think is a mistake. 1 second. Yeah, the Carbonator changed it to Einon Kikarkos. And the Pnei Moshe changes it to Hinon Kimetaltlin. Okay, I didn't change it in my Gemara when I was preparing, sorry. To those who say Avodim are like Metaltlin. How Avodim like Metaltlin? Tani, we learned Ezu Cheskas Avodim. What's the Chazak of Avodim? How do you establish Chazaka over an Eved? No alo minolo. If the Eved ties your shoe, Vital minolo takes off your shoe. No the final merits, it takes your object to the bathhouse. So that's Chazaka because you're establishing that you can use him and he serves you. Shiur Omer imig bio, I raise the Chazaka. If you lift up an Eved, that's Chazaka. If he lifts up as master, is no greater chazaka than that. So lifting up the master, actually we understand, it's certainly good because that's really using the Eved if he's going to lift you up. But the Chiddush is, and this is like Metaltlin, that Hagbah works by an Eved, right? That you can pick up an Eved and you acquire the Eved that way. That's really Allah and Metaltlin, you can't do it with Allah and Karkos. So we see in this aspect that Avodim are like Metaltlin, like movable objects. Okay? Hagbah doesn't matter with Rishus. So yeah, these don't matter with the Mashiach does, but we're not using Mashiach by Avodim. Miland Rabbanan Amrin, the words of the rabbis say that Avodim can Metaltlin as well. Tomorrow Rabbi Yossi B'Sher Rabbanan, Yossi said the name Rabbanan, Ein Shibul Matana. There is no Shibu, there's no, for Matana, meaning, if you give somebody a gift, your property is not Meshubad to ensure that that gift remains valid. If the gift is invalid for some reason, tough on the recipient. And explicitly it says here, Ein Govim Min Avodim Kikarkos, you do not collect from land, from slaves like you collect from land. On Ramada Rabbi Shemi, Ramada said to Rabbi Shemi, Maninu Rabbanin, who are these rabbis? Amalei, so he said, he didn't answer directly, but he said that these rabbis are in line with the sheet of the Amoraim. These are obviously Tanoim. In line with the sheet of the Amoraim, Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Ami. What's the case Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Ami? Armalata Tafsas Amsa. a certain widow grabbed the maidservant of her deceased husband, which was inherited by her husband's child. So she grabbed it. She took hold of it. So the case came from Rabbi Yitzchak, and he said, "I'm a tough sister fast." Once she grabbed it, she grabbed it. Why? We're not sure about volume is like karkos or like metalton. If it's like karkos, so then the property of these soymim is meshubah. If it's not like karkos, then the property is not meshubah, right? Because only metalton tiyatzmi lo mishtavli ba'achov. The movable object of the soymim is not under lien for a creditor. So it must be. So he said it's a suffix. I don't know. So let her keep the property. Rabbi Yami Mapik Minar Rabbi Yami argues. He takes it back from her. You know why? Because her grabbing was not a valid grabbing. It's a very cute spora. This is he holds that when she grabs the slave, she doesn't grab the slave as collection. She grabs the slave because she thinks the slave is hers. Because she used the slave during the lifetime of her husband. So therefore, that's not considered to be a true tfisa. Were she to grab the slave as a valid tfisa, then she might be able to keep it. Or she doesn't grab the slave as her asserting her claim. She grabs the slave merely because she's accustomed to it. So that's not a valid chazaka. So that's, according to this, Rav Ami is saying that that indeed it's like karkos, and theoretically piece of worship, just she doesn't know what the tfisa is, right? Below. Below karkos. He makes slaves like neither avodim, like slaves like neither land nor like metalton. The time like karkos v'avodim. If you have karkos, land and slaves, and you're trying to be makna the land and slaves simultaneously to a third to another party. So karkos, the other party, the buyer, grabs hold of the land. So it should say here the words lokana avodim. The avodim are not acquired. Now, Mimarashal is very cute Gemara. If slaves are like land, they should have been acquired to go with the land. The Gemara is going to explain. If slaves are not like land, but metatli, they should have been acquired with the land. If they're not acquired with the land, it must be like they're neither like karkos nor like metatli, the third category. Which, by the way, I don't remember in everywhere in the Bavli avodim being potentially a third category. Okay, but that's could be just my faulty memory. But it says here. If you're going to say slaves are like land, having grabbed onto land should count as if you grabbed onto the slaves. Rabbi Yazid said, name Rabbi Yochanan, if you had two fields, very famous, more also Kiddushin the Bavli, if you had two fields, one's in Judah and one's in the Galilee. If you grabbed onto one of Yehuda, these coast Bezusha Begolim, with the intent of also acquiring the one in the Golil, or vice versa, Bezusha Begolim, those coast Bezusha in order to grab that one which is Yehuda as well, Kona. It's valid. It's a famous line in Sechta Kedushin the Bavli. Sadno di Ara Chadhu. Basically means all land all over the globe is connected. So if you acquire part of land over here, it's just like you make a chazak in part of a field for the entire field. You make a chazak in one parcel in Africa, which you work for another parcel in Siberia. Because it's fits inside the Darachad. When there's a makna, so he's being makna to you, and he has the mind to be makna all 10 fields. And you says, make a kid in one, then you be kind all 10, that works. Okay? So if I've only like karkos, by having made a kid on the land, I should have made a kid on the avodim also, right? So it must be avodim like karkos. And vice versa. If you hold avodim are like movable objects, then also came in karkos. If you hold on to the real estate. Actually, Rabbi should acquire the avodim. The Tiaton we learned it over there. Property which has no guarantee, which means movable property. Now the word's missing here. It should be nikdim. Even the Korban said this. Nikdim im nechasim sheyesh lemachrayus. It's acquired with property, with real estate, literally property with a guarantee. Why is that? Because the famous principle of kinyan agav. Like kinyan agav means if I want to acquire metalti to get karkos, I can't. Once I acquire the karka, the metalti are agav, piggybacked on the land. And we pass even if loads were in the soichot, even if metalti are somewhere else, kinyan agav, the piggyback kinyan works. So if avodim like metalti, why can't they be piggybacked on the land? So if avodim are like karkos, it should be simultaneous with the land. Avodim are not like karkos, it should be piggybacked on the land. Neither of these work. Must be that avodim are neither like metalti nor like karkos. Well, avodim is chattel. That's the point to the Gemara. So it must be it's not true chattel. Because if it's true chattel, you should be able to work it. You are right. It does work in human being, but that means, according to Gemara, that they're neither chattel nor real estate. A third category. Says Gemara, Bekesef. It says that you acquire a slave by money, or he acquires his freedom by money, to be more exact. From somebody else, if somebody else pays the money to his master, the slave goes free. No, not low. But now, the way most unfortunately translate this, conventionally, it's a mind-boggling chiddush. And the Ribaz goes nuts over it. I'm going to translate conventionally and non-conventionally. According to the way the conventional translation, by a master paying another individual, the slave does not go free. And Rabbi Zira argues, even if the master pays another party, the slave goes free like this. Now they all go nuts about this. How is this a process of release? You release the slave by the master paying somebody else money? How is it shaykh such a thing? Makes no sense. I understand a buyout if you buy from the master. Somebody else pays the master money. But how can there be a concept of releasing the slave? May rabo la'acher. So the Ribaz wants to, in the Tosfos I read, his sister parish, the Ribaz, he wants to give an explanation to it. Basically what he says is that really it works like a get. Except by a get, you have to give a get directly to the wife. But an Eved, before he's released, is as if he doesn't exist. Right? So therefore, you have to give it to a third party. On the other hand, by Kiddushin, money can't serve as the medium of divorce. But that's only because we say, Ein Sanegor Nasa Kategor. A defense attorney, meaning that which serves as the stuff of marriage, cannot become the stuff of divorce. But here, on the contrary, the stuff which makes him a slave should certainly be able to redeem him for being a slave. So the Ribaz has a whole range of interpretation. Even still, it's a little bit difficult because the Maisa, you can give the star to the Eved. We say Gita v'yoda boy kachas, right? Simultaneously, the Eved gets the document and is released. So why can't he get the money? So the way I would like to learn is like the Shai Teretz would just eliminate the whole problem by saying that everybody misunderstood the Gemara, which is what the Shai Teretz does often. And he says, Rabbi Yirmiyah said, when Rabbi Yirmiyah said from what he meant to say is, suppose the master wants to he can't write a get for some reason for seven. So you give somebody else the money and says, listen, Yaakov, take my money and buy for me my Evan. I really want to release my slave. I can't write him release now. So buy him from me. I'll give you the money to buy him from me. So Rabbi says it doesn't work. Because you're really paying yourself. It's not a valid transaction. Rabbi Zera said, no, I feel Rabbi Lacher can even give somebody else the money in order to buy him from you. That's a legitimate transaction. That way, it's not that the money is going from the master to the other person, and that transaction is released, but rather I'm giving the money for him to buy him out back from me. and that's the transactional lease, which is much more simple way of understanding, and I think it's probably true. Says the Gemara, Ma'u motzi mirabu la'atzmo. Now the Gemara asks another question. According to Baz, the question is, can the master pay the slave, and thus will the slave go free? Which, of course, once you said, according to Rabbi Zira, you can pay somebody else, and that sets the slave free. What about paying the slave himself, and that way set him free? Which again, is difficult. But according to the Shaitan, so the question is, can the master, if there's no yankel around, can the master give the slave himself the money and say, here, now buy your freedom from me with the money I just gave you? Or is that a catch-22, right? By the money I give him, he automatically is my back again, so therefore it doesn't work. That's the Morris question. Rabbi Yirmiyah Boyku, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked for Rabbi Yirmiyah a really fascinating question. Helach kesef zeh. Take this money, Sheteit say, says Sadcha, but everybody says me. Helach kesef Sheteit say Abdu Chol Chilus. Takes money so your slave goes free. Does that work? Amalei Yotz says yes. What about if I give you money? Sheteit say Sadcha lehefker. I pay you to make your field go to be hefker. Amalei lo yotzos. It doesn't work. There's no such thing. It says more ma ben zelazet. What difference does it make? So he says zez equal ben das. By Eved, he gave him money that he should make the Eved himself his owner over himself. V'zeh lo equal ben das. But by hefker, you can't give money in order for somebody to make hefker. It's a fascinating concept, Rabbi Isai. The Lord Sameach speaks about some length. He says the Yerushalmi is really a global statement. Can a person make a kinyan to that somebody should go out of his domain and not enter anybody else's domain? Or is hefker, like the Gemara says elsewhere, like a neder? It has to be that the individual renounces it unilaterally, not as part of a transaction. That's really the question. And the Gemara is saying you can't make hefker as a transaction. It's got to be a pronouncement. And Eved goes free as a transaction. Why? Because in essence, Eved going free is acquiring himself. But hefker, which is by nature unilateral, cannot be transacted via consideration. You can pay a guy to make a pronouncement, but there's no such thing as a kinyan to hefker. It's a fascinating concept. Okay? I see you guys are not that fascinated, but it really is fascinating. Okay? Or it's Rabbi Yossi, it would start only when it gets to somebody else's privileged domain. Yeah, obviously we would try to avoid applying this because I'm a roy, they're not going to break head mixed into tonight. That'd be an interesting thing to think about it. You're right. Here clearly we're going with the assumption that I think that it's immediate renouncement, and that's why it doesn't work. So says tomorrow, Ma ben Zel says Yikul ben Das, says Yikul ben Das. So wait a minute. What about the Eved was a deaf mute? So he's not a ben Das. Amalei says nevertheless, Ish, it's a person. It's acquiring, midrabanan at least. What if he's a minor? Amalei Takli will eventually grow up. So the bottom line is he's saying that Eved goes to himself, right? And therefore it's valid. But hefker, which has to be unilateral pronouncement, it cannot be done via transaction. Rabbi Yehuda said, I said Rabbi Zira Rabbi Shimon Elazar. Rabbi Zira is going like Rabbi Shimon Elazar. The Tani Rabbi Shimon Elazar said, Mishura Meir, At Bishtar Ayedei Acherim. You can release a slave. Rabbi Meir said this, right? You can release a slave by a star through other people, lo yedei atzmo, but not via himself, right? Mal b'shtar, mal b'shtar yedei acherim. 1 second. Yeah. Not by himself. What does it mean by shtar? Through other people, not himself. Lora does not mean Lora Bo, no saying shtar lachem sheitze avdol lecherus. Does not mean that the master gives a shtar to other individuals in order that the slaves go free. Avchacha, so too, Rabbo, no saying ketzav lacher, his master give money to others, sheitze avdol lecherus, in order that a slave goes free. So so in other words, just like the master can give a shtar to other people and the slave is released thereby, so too the master can give the money to other people by which he can initiate the process of the slave going free. But we don't pass him because like this, b'shtar idei achem and lo idei atzmo. 1 second. Yeah. We don't pass it. We pass the shtar. Even the Evan himself can accept. But this price up, we're not looking at that part of it that the shtar, the Evan himself can accept. We pass Evan can accept. We're looking at the emphasis that the shtar, even Achem can accept on behalf of the Evan. So I mean, you can use Achem in redeeming the Evan himself, whether like the Ridbaz, that by paying the Achem the Evan goes free, or like the Shaita herself, by giving the slaughters money that they in turn can buy him from the master. Okay, so Lamaisa, this is the middle of the sugya, but it's late. All right, we'll stop here and we'll pick up with Rabbi Avun tomorrow night.